died in the line of duty while serving and protecting their communities. Although they are gone, the sacrifice, courage, and bravery Kiana and Kaya exhibited will never be forgotten. They now join the more than 23,000 other law enforcement heroes who have made the ultimate sacrifice, with their names engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. Please welcome Marcia Ferranto, Chief Executive Officer of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund.
Tonight, we have joining us here in the front row, Kaya Grant's family and Kiana Holly's family. These women are true heroes. We promise that your sacrifice and their sacrifice will never be forgotten. Kaya and Kiana have special stories, as do the 619 law enforcement officers we are honoring here tonight. To pay them proper tribute, each of their names will be read as part of the ceremony and will forever be etched on the walls of the National Memorial and in the hearts of a grateful nation. To them and their families, to all law enforcement professionals who serve and protect us, we thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Memorial Fund's Board of Directors who have joined me on the dais this evening, it is my honor and privilege to welcome all of you to this milestone occasion, the 34th Annual Candlelight Vigil, to honor the service and sacrifice of America's law enforcement professionals and their families. In addition to the more than 30,000 members of law enforcement, survivors, citizen supporters who have gathered here tonight, we also welcome thousands from around the nation who are watching this solemn event on live webcast. I would like to express our sincere gratitude to presenting sponsor Verizon, platinum sponsor, the Motorola Solutions Foundation, and all of our other sponsors and individuals who contributed to make this evening a success. I would also like to recognize the Police Unity Tour, who rode in yesterday with over 1,800 riders to present a check to the National Memorial of $2 million. We are proud to call them family. Unfortunately, during their ride this week, they lost a rider from Chapter 7. Chapter 7 and your entire family, our hearts are heavy for you. We thank you for your generosity and your dedication to our nation's law enforcement officers and their families. When we dedicated the Law Enforcement National Monument 31 years ago, there were more than 12,500 names on its walls. As a special tribute to those men and women, we read each of their names in a final roll call that lasted a full 24 hours. Ever since, we have given that same honor to each name that has been added to this national treasure. We continue that proud tradition tonight with the reading of 619 names added this past April. These names are now officially dedicated on the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial.
Please rise for the presentation of colors by the United States Park Police Honor Guard and the singing of the national anthem, performed by NYPD Detective Lauren Leggio.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing as Reverend Markel Hutchins, CEO of Movement Forward, lead organizer of National Faith and Blue Weekend, and a member of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund Board of Directors, gives the invocation.
Let us pray. We lift our eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh our help, knowing that our help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God, we come tonight because we need help. The families of the fallen who sit in these chairs tonight, they need you like they've never needed you before. God, we thank you for the service and the sacrifice of these courageous men and women who were willing to lay down their lives for their sisters and brothers. But God, their families are here tonight, broken, hurting, in pain, some still anguished and grieving, and they need your help. So we ask you, God, tonight to do three things. Number one, God, be with us in this place. Rest upon these hallowed grounds. Transform this not into some sad occasion, but into a celebration. Do that for us, God. Number two, we pray that your healing hand would rest on every woman, man, boy, and girl at this ceremony tonight. We pray that you would strengthen the hearts, encourage the minds of the families of the fallen, heal their brokenness. Where they're broken, heal tonight. Where they're empty, fill tonight. Then thirdly, God, we pray that you would unite us. We come here tonight from different places, from different walks of life, from different experiences, but we come tonight because we are one. We are all Americans. And so, God, in this moment in our nation's history where on the one hand violence and upheaval seem to be on the rise, and division and dissension are on the rise, on the other hand, we pray that your hand of unity and collaboration would drive right through the middle of all of the mess and bring us together like never before. We know that if we have faith, you have power. Send your help tonight. If you do this, we'll be careful to give you praise and honor and glory because it all belongs to you. It's in your name and nature that we ask it. Let every heart say amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lori Sharp Day, Managing Partner of the Ashcroft Law Firm and Board Chair of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund.
Please be seated. On behalf of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund Board of Directors, once again, it is my great honor and privilege to welcome you to the 34th Candlelight Vigil. A former chair of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, who happens to be my boss, former Attorney General John Ashcroft, coined a phrase at a candlelight vigil about 5 years ago, and some of you may remember. And it was, in order for us to honor the fallen, let's stop the falling. And obviously, that is a very simple way of saying that we have to do everything we can to protect our law enforcement officers and do everything we can to make policing safer. And I think everyone on this stage will agree that that is something that they're all committed and are doing now. But while we're doing that, in order to truly honor the fallen, we've got to do two things. One, we have to honor the living. We cannot wait until a tragic fate cuts a life too short when they were out trying to protect their community, to say thank you and to show our gratitude. We cannot wait until a tragic fate turns a family, a law enforcement family, into a family of survivors, to recognize all the sacrifices that they make so their loved ones can serve and protect us.
The second thing that we have to do to continue to honor law enforcement is to support and honor their survivors. To those survivors tonight, we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart and tell you how sorry we are for your loss, and we are so truly sorry. We may not know the right things to say to you. We may not know the right things to do for you, but please know that we are here for you and we're doing everything we can to ease your pain. But tonight we're going to commit to you that until we reach 0 line of duty deaths, we will gather on the National Mall on May 13th every year to show our appreciation and to comfort those who have lost so much that we can't even understand. We will read the names of the brave men and women who gave their lives to keep us safe and to protect our liberties and our freedoms. We will maintain a pristine law enforcement memorial, one that's worthy of bearing the names of America's fallen heroes. We will maintain a museum and continue a museum where families can continue to honor and respect their fallen, where they can be proud of the sacrifices that they made. And when people come to Washington, D.C., they can see how important law enforcement is in our communities. And while it may be a simple gesture, please know that tonight, when we lift our candles, it is our collective effort to show our appreciation and our recognition for what you have lost. It is our way of supporting you and of showing you that we will never take for granted the sacrifice your loved ones made to keep us all safe.
Please welcome the Honorable Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of the United States Department of Homeland Security.
Good evening. I am privileged to be here with you tonight as we honor our fallen heroes and recommit ourselves to their memory. They are individuals who made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of our country. It has been a challenging time for law enforcement in this country, and our frontline officers shoulder the weight of those challenges week in and week out, morning, day, and night. They do so with unwavering dedication, professionalism, and integrity. Reverence and support for the men and women of law enforcement is very much a part of all of us here today. Let it be so with our entire nation. On this day of remembrance, we raise up that which we carry deep within us every day: pride in mission, service to country, and faithfulness to the memory of the fallen who make our ongoing work possible. The road of service is paved by those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Not only those whom we have lost, but their families, loved ones, friends, colleagues, and neighbors too. Each time an officer dons their uniform, pins on their badge, holsters their firearm, and walks out the front door of their home, their loved ones walk out that front door too. The risk that one bears is borne by others. The loss of life is the loss felt deeply and profoundly by others. So too is the pride that emanates from service. To the family and loved ones of the fallen, it was your love and support that made their service possible. Please know that you are heroes too. While we devote this day of remembrance to honor the fallen, it is not this day alone when we do so. The greatest tribute we pay to them is how we carry forward in executing our mission. All of you in law enforcement do that every single day. As we work in the service of our communities across this great country, we honor our fallen heroes and the selfless sacrifice they made to serve and protect. We honor all of you here today. We light a candle in prayer, everlasting memory, enduring pride, commitment to mission, and profound gratitude. Thank you.
The National President of Concerns of Police Survivors, Patricia Caruth.
Thank you. I want you all to know how beautiful you are. I'm looking out earlier when the lights weren't so bright. You're absolutely beautiful, and I thank God for every one of you. We're about halfway through National Police Week. I hope it has been an honorable experience for you so far. With Law Enforcement United and Police Unity Tour arrivals yesterday, tonight, this candlelight vigil and the COPS conference on the 14th and the 16th, and then the FOP memorial service on the 15th. It is a full week of honor and blue love. I really feel as if I already know all of you. I've seen you all at the hotel. That I know your lives have been changed, just as my life was changed, as my son was killed also on February the 20th of 2003. My only son, Alexandria, Louisiana police officer, Jeremy J. Caruth. He was shot and killed in the line of duty. He left behind 2 daughters, Margot and Noelle, his 3 sisters, Amy, Carrie, and Stacy, his father, and I. Our family definitely changed on that day. As with any parent who has lost a child, the grief was at times unbearable, and most times it took every ounce of energy I had. My faith was my foundation that saved me from sinking into total darkness. I found early in my grief that I could not lean on my own understanding of anything to do with this. This was a territory that I knew nothing of. I had to totally lean on God. He was my guide. And on many days, it was really hard to stay focused. All my life, I had been taught about forgiveness. I had taught my very own son about the freedom of forgiveness. I decided to forgive my son's killer. And I must say that I felt like I was set free to grieve in a way that felt right for me. Actually, I have learned much about living life from my son's death. I have learned to live life to the fullest. I have learned to live life and make life count. I have learned to speak about love and speak of it each day, every day. I have learned the true meaning of love one another unconditionally, and do it today. I encourage you to add these things to your life. Over a short period of time, I had met some people who seemed to understand where I was in my grief. That's when I became involved with COPS. The mission statement for Concerns of Police Survivors is to rebuild the shattered lives of family members and coworkers of all law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. It was through hands-on programs and sessions with cops that I found out that not everyone navigates grief in the same way. My grief was different from others. I have had much support from my very own family. I have had an awesome community lifting me up in prayers of survival and healing. I have had a department that has always been there for me. I have had officers who have made sure I take care of myself, and I expected these officers to take care of themselves. But even with all that support, I was brokenhearted, and my family was hurting so deeply. I found myself wondering if I could ever get back to where I was before my son was killed. As I thought about this, I realized I wasn't the same person after the birth of my son. He was my first child. He had totally changed my life. I had never known a love like that before. Could I possibly navigate my grief with the same energy and love I'm here to share with you? Love is enough. Love does not die. My son is gone, but the love is still here. No one can take that from me, not even death. I'm telling you that the love of being a mother is forever. Even though my heart was broken and the jagged edges were evidence of the relationship with my son, the gaps between the broken edges were making more room for me to love even more, to love people who were broken, just like me, to love them right where they were. It's that love, it's God's love, that fuels my fire for the COPS organization. Tonight, as I look out at all of you, I remember back to when I was sitting in one of those chairs at this event for the very first time. I do remember how lost in my grief I was. I remember lighting a candle. It seemed like my very own personal darkness. I remember looking into that candle and feeling some warmth, and also seeing a beautiful light that reminded me of my son's life. I remembered not wanting to blow that candle out for fear of losing the light. But trust me, their light will never leave us because it's etched and instilled within us. Now, when it comes time to light the candles, some of you will smile and some of you will cry. But all of you will remember your loved one, your officer. I encourage you to hold that candle up high and say their name. Let your light shine into the darkness of this night. Before this night is over, you will all see what I see from here. You will see hope when the light of our candles all together and that light takes over the darkness of this very night. I encourage you to take a good look at the light in each other's eyes and faces and notice how tenderly we share our light with each other. This is a very special light. It is a light that has been created out of our very own brokenness. For almost 20 years, I have heard the saying, "Take my hand and I will pull you up." It's a COPS organization thing. All of you that know me, you know I'm not going to just go sit down. I always like to leave you better than I found you. So if everyone would raise your left hand. I expect you people on this stage to also. Now take that hand and hold the person's hand next to you. Please give that hand a squeeze. Yes, I know they're strangers. It's okay. You need this. Remember these words. Take my hand and I will pull you up. You know, the hardest part is taking the hand. But trust me, we all need to be pulled up at some point. I will now leave you all connected to each other, ready to face any tomorrow with people who truly understand where you are. Yes, we totally get you. We are one big blue connected family forever. I love you so much.
The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial was dedicated 31 years ago. Every year since, the names of the fallen have been read aloud to honor their sacrifice. Tonight, we continue that proud tradition with the reading of 619 names that were added to the memorial in 2022. The names will be read by the Memorial Fund's Board of Directors and other special guests. They will be read in the order of the state in which they served. The candlelighting in honor of these and all of our nation's fallen law enforcement heroes will occur immediately following the names reading. Please refrain from lighting your candles until after the memorial candle is lit on stage and the flame is passed on to all of you. At this time, we begin this evening's roll call of honor.
From the state of Alabama, Jason Lynn Weiss, Richard Wendell Humphrey, William Henry Smith Jr., Randall Versey Smith, Harry Marvin Hutchinson Jr., Jeffrey Shannon Bain, Roy Eugene Mangum Sr., Buddy Ray Crabtree, Willie Earl Hall, Milton Ferguson, Harry Lamb.
Continuing for the state of Alabama, Samuel Lewis Williams, James Crawford Bonner, Otha Ziegler Dent, Robert King Van, Brandon Wyatt Ard, Juan Manuel Gomez, Maurice Jared Jackson, James Nicholas Reisner, Sean Russell Kane, Madison Nicholson.
From the state of Arizona, Joseph Henry Montgomery, Christopher Allen Farrar, L. Tyler Britt, Michael Devin Rudd, Chad Owen Brackman, Juan Miguel Ruiz.
Continuing from the state of Arizona, Kendall Leroy Thomas, Alicia Don Carter, Miroslav Murchowski, Kevin Joseph Fletcher, Jeremy Allen Brinton, Gennaro Allen New, Matthew Aaron Hefter.
From the state of Arkansas, Scott Anderson Hutton, Hussein L. Aman, Christopher William Cummings, Joshua Lee Person, James Robert Gardner, Frank Ramirez Jr., Danny James Gines, Kevin Dale Apple, Leslie Shane Green, Malachi Thomas Thacker.
From the state of California, Thomas Edward Stanley, Joseph Edward Boberg, Scott Edward Merrick, Jeremiah Wayne Hart, Reuben Gene Warren Jr., Juan Cruz Jr., R. Paul Brown II, Harminder Singh Grewal, John Edward Reynolds, Anthony Joel Redondo, Philip Jesse Campas, and Thomas Joseph Albanese.
Continuing from the state of California, Anthony Ray White, Jose Luis Enzora, Patricia Elena Gillian, Philip Tackless Sodario, Amelia Teresa Martinez, Fred Stephen Cueto, Valentin Contreras Martinez, Erica Nicole McAdoo.
Continuing from the state of California, Julio Beltran, Adam Samuel Gibson, Dominic David Vaca, Armando Canto Jr., Luca Pietro Benedetti, Robert Lloyd Travelstead, Jimmy Artie Inn, William Ray Sanchez, Frank Gonzalez Holgren III.
From the state of Colorado, Gordon David Beasley, Charles Wilcox, Eric Joseph Scher, Eric Houston Talley, James Allen Herrera, Daniel James Trujillo, Joseph Andrew Pollock, Clay Zachary Livingston, Wayne Stephen Whaler, Ty Allen Powell.
From the state of Connecticut, Eugene Kenneth Barron Jr., Brian Eric Mull. From the state of Florida, Harry Robert Sazinski Jr., Shane Troy Owens, Dominic Eugene Gaida, Clint Robin Siegel, Patrick Wayne Madison, Jason Robert Rayner, Francesco Luigi Chilico, Paul Luciano, Whitney Nicole Cloud, Miguel Rodriguez, Jr.
Continuing from the state of Florida, Adam Dale Wisenet, Lazaro Roberto Feeblis, Sean Christopher Herrick, Brian John Pingery, Jennifer B. Espot, Derek Scott Astot, Tommy Gail Breedlove, Brian Roy Levine, John Alexander Cook, Yandy Sharino.
Continuing from the state of Florida, Daniel Eugene Watts, Louis Michael Livatino, Stephen William Mazzata, William Nelson Diaz, Michael Andrew Nowak, Douglas Lynn Clark, Sylvia Laverne Allen, Kayleen Stafal, Terrell Kenneth Jordan.
Continuing from the state of Florida, David Joseph John Baptiste, Alexei Vladimir Aligar, Juan F. Yanis, Jack Edward Grimes, Joshua Joseph Moyers, Michael David No, Craig Sejos, Kevin Andres Valencia.
Continuing from the state of Florida, Michael Riley Webb, Francisco Jose Tobar, Jacinto R. Navarro Jr., Carlos Antonio Hernandez, Raymond Orion Williamson, Michael James Magley, Joshua Joseph Welch, Jody Hull Jr., William Jackson Pravat, Michael Preston Taylor, Clifford Dean Crouch, Jesse Peter Madsen, Robert A. Williams, Anthony C. Testa.
From the state of Georgia, Arturo Villegas Sr., T. Michael Tanksley, Jeffrey Robert Smith, Christopher Wilson Knight, William Warren Gay, Brandy Megan Crostock, Jody Jerome Smith, Stephen Lee Marshall, Armando Chaz Mendoza, Henry Nicholas Laxon, Charles Ashley Smith, and Kenneth Ray Kirkland.
Continuing from the state of Georgia, Richard Arnold McMahon, Justin Williams Bedwell, Richard M. Grant, Daniel Marcus Mobley, Ramsey Odell Mannon, Nicholas Anderson Boutwell, Onochi Sunday Ikedion, Wayne Douglas Snyder, Roger Joe Hodge, Richard Larry Odom.
Continuing the state of Georgia, Michael D'Angelo Garrigan, Michael Todd Thomas, Christopher J. Batchelor, David George Crumpler, Param Hans Denise Chandra Desai, Nicholas Alexander Howard, Joseph William Bursom, Michael Jeer Stokes, Lena Nicole Marshall, William Jeffrey Yancey.
Continuing from the state of Georgia, Brian Christopher Hawkins, Jerry Stephen Hempfield, Bobby Williams, Sherman Peoples, Frankie Annabelle Gutierrez, Dylan Macaulay Harrison, Barry Edwin Henderson, Dennis Dale Sylvester Jr., Gregory Bernard Campbell, Christopher Jackson Dye, Rodney LaRon Davis Sr., Tara Leanne Cook.
From the state of Illinois, Marlene R. Rickmanick, Brian Russell Pierce Jr., Christopher Neil Arbenheim, Gary Stephen Hibbs, Ella Grace French, Alan S. Jagetti, Richard Jose Santiago.
Continuing on for the state of Illinois, James J. Kowski, Jr., Todd A. Hannikin, Carl Daniel Dubson, Joseph Thomas Capello III, Roy Charles Leesveld, Tyler Nathaniel Timmons, and Sean Ian Riley.
From the state of Indiana, Robert Wayne Nicholson, John Davis Starks, James Joshua Payne, Thomas E. Sawyer, Eugene Lee Lasco, James Richard Hertzel, Anthony Wayne Hinshaw, James A. Driver, Gregory Joseph Ferenczi.
From the state of Iowa, Broderick Richard Day, Richard William Newkirk, Lorena Yarna Schulte, Robert Levi McFarlane, Michael Donovan Teachout, Robert John Vitamotis II, Stephen Raygard, James Kyle Smith, Theodore Lawrence Bender.
From the state of Kansas, Stephen Mark Evans, Theodore James Olmeyer, Thomas Lee Bertzloff, Freddie Joe Castro, Carrie Dean Dick, Clay Morsel, Germany.
From the Commonwealth of Kentucky, James Ballard Smith, Edward Scott Dennis, Lee Daniel Manns, Wagner Lee Baskett Jr., Sean Jeffrey Byler, Gary Wayne Crump II, Robert T. Daniel, Brandon Alexander Shirley, Thomas Allen Beard,
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Jonathan Howard Tosh, Thomas Anthony Brooks, Richard Longoria, Martez Keith Hughes, Zachary Dale Cottingham, Hassan Falah Hassan, Bruce Russell Gdansky, Ronald Everett Bradley.
From the state of Louisiana, Austin Spencer Bush, Alvis Joseph West III, Stephen Christopher Arnold, Adam Christopher Gobert, Gary Peter Duplessis Jr., Eric Anthony Frazier, Vanessa Patience Mackey, Teresa Elizabeth Simon, Martinez Melvin Mitchin, Randy James Guidry. From the state of Maine, Luke Ryan Gross.
From the state of Maryland, Kiana Chanel Holly, Keith Andrew Hecook, Gregory Michael Santangelo, Christine Lynn Peters, Gregory Guy Collins.
From the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Jose V. Fontanez, Michael Patrick Cassidy, Stephen R. DeFosis, Juan Manuel Borges, Emmanuel Familia.
From the state
of Michigan, Fred Allen Posevitz, Darrell Dwayne Cross, Jr., George Carl Emery, James Wilbert Cranston, John S. Seelock, Edgar Philip Laventure.
Continuing from the state of Michigan, Ryan Joseph Proxmire, Earl L. Avery, Patrick Thomas Waters, Carl S. Zimmerman, Elgin C. McDonough, Thomas Clancy, Charles Small.
From the state of Minnesota, Charlie Lewis Banks, Jr., Sarah Ann Grell, Ronald William Smith. From the state of Mississippi, Michael Anthony Boot, Sr., Thomas Patrick Barnes, John Martin Harris, Walker Cobb.
From the state of Missouri, John Richard Bullard, Jr., Blaze Alexander Madrid Evans, Matthew Logan Davis, Dennis Keith Bennett, Robert Lewis Welch III, Sonny Lee Orban Sr., Leslie Lee Lentz, John Michael Bowie, Lonnie Raymond Lejeune, Antonio Antoine Valentine Sr.
From the state of Nebraska, Kevin Patrick Kennedy, Jr. From the state of Nevada, Ignacio Javier Romero, Jason Timothy Swanger, John Richard King, Micah David May, Donald Albert Poffenroth. From the state of New Hampshire, Jesse Edward Sherrill.
From the state of New Jersey, James R. Perry, Al Mustafa Issalam Pearson, Bernard T. Waddell Sr., Vincent R. Butler, Edward C. Jamandran, Matthew D. Razukis, Hector Moya, Henry Hawthorne Hamilton, Vincent L. Wilhelm, Ronald James Yeager.
From the state of New Mexico, Thomas Wade Frazier, Jeffrey Mark Montoya, John McLeod, Darian Ray Jarrett.
From the state of New York, Christopher Ryan Cockburn, Mars M. Murray, Jr., Leonardo M. Chavez, Sony Clerge, Shantae Neil Baker, Natalie Brill, Stanley Dash, Michael Roderick Mundy, Anastasios Sakos.
Continuing from the state of New York, Harry O. D'Onofrio, Thomas A. Byrne, Andrew D. Stromfeld, Angel M. Santiago, Terrence P. Connolly, Charlie W. Mackey Sr., Reginald Cooley.
Continuing from the state of New York, Peter C. Woods, Nemesio Vera, Thomas J. Gallo, Michael O'Neill, George F. Dorini, Peter Gianfrancesco.
Continuing from the state of New York, David T. Yu, John C. Zonveld, Leonard Daniel Coco Jr., Mark Henry Rodon, John B. McManus, Cedric G. Dixon.
Continuing from the state of New York, Joseph C. Wagner, Michael F. Ramo, Derek A. Bishop, Joseph Mark Paolio, Anthony N. Ragnano, Andrew Waring.
Continuing from the state of New York, James Joseph Monda, Robert John Van Zyl, John R. Lowry II, Joseph Andrew Martini, William James Sullivan Jr., Stanley J. Casper.
From the state of North Carolina, Joseph Brandon Gore, William Oscar McCurtry III, Dennis Wayne Dixon, Julio Cesar Herrera, Mia Daniel Goodwin, Carl Lee Proper, Ryan Andrew Hayworth, David Dwayne Pard.
Continuing from the state of North Carolina, Donald Hall, Eric Otis Ritter, Robert Craig Cloninger, David Edwin McAlpine Sr., Dennis Eugene Boynton, Julie Ann Harper, Liddell Graham, Anthony Lynn Hardy.
Continuing from the state of North Carolina, Julian Arsenio Priest III, Christopher Eugene Sorrenti, Joseph Lloyd Granke, Thomas Daniel Roberts III, Jr., Charles Warren Harris, Jr., Michael Robert flag. A. Bruce Trevitt.
Continuing from the state of North Carolina, Timothy Lee Howell. D. Joseph Nichols. William Edward Marsh. Donald William Ramey. Christopher David Ward. Logan Shane Fox. Michael Shannon McDonald.
From the state of Ohio, Shane Henry Bartek. Donald Raymond Gilreath III. Jason Scott Legore. Brandon Michael Stalker.
From the state of Oklahoma, John Lee Trout Sr., Matthew Ryan North, Louis Franklin Cante, Howard Kritzer Smith III, Edgar Pales Jr., John Arthur Harris II, Jared Matthew Lindsay, Kyle Jeffrey Davis. From the state of Oregon, S. Allen Burdick, John Richard Burright.
From the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Timothy John Sheehan. Ross William Dixon. James Edward Simonetti. Robert Lee Walker. Michael James Joyce. Robert John Boyle Sr. Lawrence John Fiorelli. Scott Damian Mahoney. Tony Monroe Jordan.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Young X. Martinez. Monty Ray Mitchell. Donald C. Brackett. From the state of Rhode Island, Russell K. Freeman. From the state of South Carolina, Henry William Buck. James Walter Height. Henry F. Brown. Hilton Theodore Smith. William Thomas Cross. Melton Levi Gore. Jonathan David Price. Henry Bluford. Gordon William Best.
From
from the state of Tennessee. Vassar Odine Richmond. David Frank Miller. Edgar Albert Morris III. Kenny Lynn Gibbons. Joshua Kane Hayes. Toby J. Kaiser. Michael Lewis Hill. Daryl Dwayne Adams. Jimmy Alexander Schindler. Christopher Scott Triplett.
Continuing from the state of Tennessee, Derek Edward Sidwell. Lakeisha Lachey Tucker. Ray William McCrary Jr. Willie Lois Dortch. Roger Allen Mitchell. Joshua Wayne Stewart. Teresa Fuller.
From the state of Texas, Eric Sean Lindsay. Steve Urias. Randolph Boyd Jr. Louis Andrew Traylor. Juan Alfonso Delgado. Esteban Ramirez III. Samuel Alexander Leonard. Stephen George Jones.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Clinton Joseph Ventrica. Scott Paul Harn. Arnulfo Pargas. David Edward Ruiz. Mitchell Aaron Penton. Roland Acevedo. Olin Chester Pass. Rodney Lane Mooneyham.
Continuing from the state of Texas, William Lyle Gardner. Camarino Santiago. Jonathan Andre Terrazas. James Earl Dement Jr. Michelle Beth Gaddy. Andrew R. McDonald. Dusty L. Wainscott. Richard Anthony Sapolio, Sr.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Kareem Anthony Atkins. Tomas Infante, Sr. Joshua James Seaman. Sean Christopher Waters. Alexander David Goosh. Robert Perez. James Nathaniel Henry. Sherry K. Langford.
Continuing from the state of Texas, William John Jeffrey. John David Wilbanks. Sherman Otto Bennies, Jr. Noah Ryan LeBlanc, Sr. Joshua Bartlett, Richard Lee Houston II, Pedro J. Mejia, Clay Eugene Garrison.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Joseph Anthony Cisneros Jr., Cyrus Abel, Ku Sheng Wang, William Howard Gagel Sr., Thomas Scott Colora, Melissa Ruth Malodando, Charles Ronald Hughes, Connell Foreman.
Continuing for the state of Texas, Cletus Gilberto Sherman, Christopher Damon Watson Sr., Jose Angel Hernandez, Shad Eugene Hammond, Echo Rodriguez, Cody Whitley Turner, Glenn R. Skeens Jr., Huey Pierce Primus III.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Honorado Antonez, Lakeisha Monique Brantley, Joe Martin Alvarez, Daniel Joseph Giorgi, Jimmy Garcia, Luis Arturo Hernandez Sr., Tracy Annette Adams, Troy Keith Morin, Tiowa Caroline Abella.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Vicky V. James, Treva T. Preston, Alfredo Jimenez Jr., Randall Lewis Sims, Brenda Lee LaFaso, Joe Charlie Landon, Philip D. Holbert.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Harold Paul Smith Jr., Timothy Lee Beggs, Elizabeth A. Jones, Jackson M. Pongay, Chad Michael Walker, Paul Keith Mooney, Dustin Lee Slovacek, Christopher Ray Wilson.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Gregory Randall Young, Philip David Barron Jr., Eddie B. Hutchison III, Michael Allen Keithley, Albert Renee Gomez, Susan Ann Roberts.
From the state of Utah, Trenton F. Halliday. From the Commonwealth of Virginia, James Anthony Sisk, Bonnie Nicole Jones, Frederick Henry Cameron Jr., Dominic Jared Winham.
From the state of Washington, Jeremy Robert
Brown, Reginald Bernard Thomas, Alexandra Brenneman Harris, John David Anderson, Gabrielle Kyle Forrest, David Allen Christensen, Eric Thomas Gunderson.
From the state of West Virginia, John Arthur Eckerson, George William Spangler. From the state of Wisconsin, Joseph John Kuer, Mark Sean Lentz, Daniel Allen Stainbrook.
From the federal agencies, John William Bost III.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Michael Gale Garbo.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Laura Ann Schwarzenberger, Daniel I. Alphin, Jimmy John Daniels, Thomas James Manel.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Elizabeth Nicole Jacobson, Lee Bernard E. Chavez, Travis Lee Griffin.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Salvador Martinez Jr., Martín Barrios, Aníbal Antonio Pérez, Rafael Gilberto Sánchez, Alfredo Moisés Ibarra, David Blanco Ramírez, Luis Heriberto Domínguez, Chad Edward McBroom, Ricardo Zarate, Daniel Paul Cox.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Edgardo Acosta Feliciano, Juan Manuel Urrutia, Freddie Vasquez, Christopher Shane Simpkins, Alejandro Flores Panuelos, Matthew Leslie Lyons, Victor Julian Donate, David Bryant Saavedra, Eric James Skelton, Monica June Riola, Yochimia Letres Conyers.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Ruben Facio, Crispin San Juan San Jose, Carlos C. Mendoza, Hanaro Guerrero, Cesar Dongaran C. Bonga, Robert Allen Mayer Jr., Beverly Matthews Good, Byron Don Shields, Troy Allen Atkins, Andrew Raymond Bouchard, Wolf Ruben Valmont.
Continuing from the federal agencies,
William Francis Evans, Brian David Sicknick, Nathan B. Bruckenthal.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Rosa Elisa Vasquez, Bradley K. Cam, Olympia Germaine Turner, Roberto Carlos Cantu, Miguel Angel Ortiz, Ronald Mason Hunter Jr., Bradley John Harris, Danny Keith Loeffner Jr., Juan Rojas, Ronald Roland Phillips,
Continuing from the federal families, James Donald Vaughn, Frederick R. Bergmeyer, Raymond A. Johnson, Norman Nelson, William Clare Godfrey Sr., Joseph E. Prince.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Jared McCain Keyworth, Hugh Boyd Bennett, Vincent Andrew Gala Jr., Craig Allen Kreiner, Havania Denise Holly, Christopher Keenan, James Kirby.
Continuing from the federal agencies, George Gonzalez, Charles Lunsford Friend, Gregory Cleveland Holland.
From the tribal law enforcement agencies, James Robert Hughes, Horacio Sebastian Dominguez, Esther Charlie, Michael E. Lee, Ryan Andrew Byelk, Brian Robert Brown.
From the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, Eliezer Hernandez Cartagena, Luis Xavier Salaman Conde, Ervin Castro Domínguez, José Ferrer Pavón, Erasmo García Torres, Juan Francisco Rosado López, Juan Rafael Rivera Padua, Luis Ángel Marrero Díaz, Juan Ramón Ramírez Padilla, Roberto Rodríguez Hernández.
From the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Jonathan Howard Tosh. From the state of California, William Ray Schwartz.
Behind every name read here tonight, and on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, are stories and memories that burn brightly, tonight and always. Stories that inspire us, and memories that cannot be extinguished. As a symbol of that eternal remembrance, Secretary Mayorkas and COPS National President Patricia Caruth will now light the memorial candle. The flame will then be passed to each of you with the help of the trustees of the Concerns of Police Survivors.
Man down, I'm bleeding out. There's no time, so please hear me out. These are the last few words I'd like to say to you all. This is my last call. So tell my wife I love her and that I won't be home tonight. And thank her for those long, hard years that we tried to get it right. And tell her I'll be waiting after she makes it through it all. This is my last call. But ask her to forgive me, forgive me. Tell her I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry that I can't be the man that she's gonna need, gonna need. This is my last call. And tell my children that I love them. Oh yeah, that daddy always loved them so. And tell them to hold their mother tight and to never let her go. Tell them I'll always be watching, looking over them through it all. This is my last call. My last call. But tell them to fight for me. To fight for me. And do what's right for me. What's right for me. And choose the light for me. For me. But don't ever forget me. Forget me. Tell them I'll always be watching, and I'll be there every time they fall. This is my last call. For those who served beside me and who held that thin blue line, stand tall, stand strong, and hold your head up high. I'm sorry I let you down today. Please know I gave my all. This is my last call. My last. Come on. So raise a glass for me. Kick some ass for me, for me, for me. And ring a bell for me, for me, for me. And send them straight to hell for me, for me. I'd like to think I saved a few good lives, but I couldn't save them all. This is my last call. I said I'd like to think I saved a few good lives, but I couldn't save my own. This is my last call. My last.
As guardians of public safety, law enforcement professionals are called upon to risk their lives every day for the safety and protection of others, and often to witness the unthinkable. Day or night, on duty or off, they never stop protecting others. Their heroism is unparalleled, and the debt of gratitude we owe them can never be fully paid. Many of those men and women are here with us tonight. We honor you today and every day. Our memorial, your memorial, pays tribute to the heroic spirit of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Each year, with heavy hearts, we carve their names in marble so that their stories will never be forgotten. Behind every name engraved on the memorial wall are the officers' loved ones whose watch has not ended and whose grief sadly endures. Tonight, we come together in solidarity with and support of the surviving families and agencies of those heroes to respect, honor, and remember their loss. As we raise our candles skyward in silent tribute, but united by light, We pledge to always remember and cherish those who have fallen, those who have been left behind, and those who continue to serve. And let us always remember, it's not how these heroes died, but how they lived.
No one song will ever fill your void. No one song will ever completely heal your pain. My prayer is that this song becomes a part of the scar that enables you to continue on, that enables you to continue to say their names, and that enables you to continue to tell their stories. This song is called Survivor. My name's Dave Bray, USA. It's truly an honor to stand before you today. No one ever heard the shot that took your life away, and the only thing I wish is that I had the chance to say I loved you one more time before you left this place. 'Cause in the blink of an eye, one moment in time, you were gone. No, I'll never look into your eyes again. I'm left with only pictures, the memories that we shared together. Oh, and it helps to ease the pain. 'Cause in the blink of an eye, one moment in time, you were gone. Gone. But I tell your story, I'll scream out your name. I'll always remember you, because the thin blue line remains, and no blink of an eye or a moment in time ever erase you, ever erase you. No one ever heard the shots that took your life away, that made me the survivor that I am today. But I know now there's an angel guiding me along, and for the rest of my days, for the rest of my way, you'll be with me. You'll be with me when I tell your story. I scream out your name. I'll always remember you, because the thin blue line remains, and no blink of an eye or a moment in time ever erase you, ever erase you. No blink of an eye or a moment in time ever erase you, ever erase you. No blink of an eye or a moment in time ever erase you, No one ever heard the shots that took your life away. The only thing I wish is that I had the chance to say I loved you one more time before you left this place.
Ladies and gentlemen, for your safety, please carefully extinguish your candles at this time. At this time, please rise for the retreat of colors.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude our ceremony, we would like to acknowledge our featured singers and participants. U.S. Navy veteran, the awesome Dave Bray, who performed Last Call and Survivor. You know you can only perform like that if you're feeling it from your heart. That was awesome. Lynn Kessler, who produced the opening video tribute for Kaya and Kiana. Our bagpipe soloist, First Sergeant Michael McCann of the Virginia State Police Department. Lastly, thank you to retired Sergeant Richard Prizzuto of the United States Capitol Police Ceremonial Unit and Officer Paul Linderman from United States Capitol Police, who performed taps. We thank all of you for coming. May God bless you. May God bless all of America's police officers and their families. And God bless America. Good night.
When leaving the candlelight vigil, if you are staying at the Hilton Mark Center, Courtyard by Marriott Pentagon South, or Hilton Garden Inn Shirlington, your buses will depart from 7th Street in the direction of the Washington Monument. Buses to all Crystal City hotels will depart from 3rd Street in the direction of the U.S. Capitol. Please allow those persons with yellow badges to have priority in boarding the buses.